Hey folks, Jimmy here, aka Palette of the Dead. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the latest issue of Warhammer 40k Combat Patrol magazine. Now, as per usual with all these videos, if you like them, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and of course, drop me a comment down below. I love hearing about from you guys and it really does go a massive way to helping out the channel too. Now, this week we are on issue number 65 of good old Combat Patrol magazine. It is part 2 of 2 of our Genestealer Cults Neophyte hybrids, and yeah, they're pretty cool. So with this issue, obviously we get one sprue to accompany the sprue that we had last week, and we also get the bases. So you will notice that there are 2 different size bases with this week's issue. You have 2 32mm bases and you have 8 25mm bases. If you've not read the build guide from last week, it's fully explained in there, because a couple of the chappies that include that guy there and that guy there will sit on 32mm bases because their weapons are bigger. Not a euphemism. Anyway, so pretty cool. Yeah, so it is needed in a roundabout way, and yeah, pretty cool. I must admit, I am looking forward to building these guys. I've already built the other Genestealer Cults minis. Haven't painted any of them because they will sit there until it is a decent temperature for me to spray paint them, because that makes life a little bit easier. Although I did invest in the good old PREORDER brush on primer as recommended to me, which by one of you chappies in one of the comments. And I really appreciate it, because I have primed this year's Christmas mini already with it, and it's worked very well. So it's a pretty good primer. So, you know, if you want brush on primers, treat yourself to a bottle of that, because pretty cool stuff. One thing I will say about it as well is, if you are going to buy it, you can find it on Wayland Games and Element Games. I got it from Wayland Games. It's a little bit cheaper than you find somewhere in some other shops. And also, if you're ordering it, if you use my affiliate link in the description down below from Wayland Games or Element Games, gives me a tiny little kickback, helps support the channel, all that good stuff. And you can pick up some other bonus goodies as well. Like, so I picked up a couple of brushes. Obviously, there is the new Warhammer Quest coming out, so you may want to order that. Maybe you want Blood Bowl, maybe you want to get yourself some more Genestealer Cults minis, or something slightly different, or maybe you just want to expand your other armies. Yeah, have a look around, have a treat, you know, get yourself a treat. Why not? Sometimes you have to treat yourself, don't you? So anyway, enough rambling on about that. We're going to move on. So last week, obviously, we had the build guide for these chappies. This week, obviously, we have the paint guide. So the paint guide, obviously, using a Bad and Black as your primed mini, and then you're going to be going over with your base coats with Administratum Grey, Mephiston Red, Lead Belcher. If you're following the guide, you're also going to be using Wraithbone, Screamer Pink, Kashchan Flesh, Macragge Blue, Rathcar Flesh, Corax White, Retributor Armour, Avalan Sunset, Mephiston Red a little bit more, because, you know, can't get a bit enough from Mephiston Red, and all that good stuff. When you're done with it, you're going to have something that looks like that if you're following the guide. If you're not following the guide, don't fear. If you want to paint them up how you want to paint them up, paint them up how you want to paint them up. Do not worry about following the guides. The guide does work very well, though. Although, if you're just looking at that, you'd think, there's not a lot of variation in colour. However, this is obviously where your shades come in. So using your Norn Oil, Carroburg Crimson, Reichland Flesh Shade will already give you a very nice change in tones for a lot of your minis. And then your Colia Green Shade and Agrax Earth Shade just amplifies it and boosts it and makes it really good. And then obviously doing your highlights with Mephiston Red again, because we can't get enough Mephiston Red, Calgar Blue, Stormhost Silver, Night Questor Flesh, Pallid Witch Flesh, Pink Horror, Mechanic Standard Grey, Wild Rider Red, Corax White again, because We also, Corex White is a very good paint, although you can get some really, really good other shades of white. I'm not going to lie, Corex White always has a habit of separating on me. I use for a couple of the Duncan Rhodes paints for white and a wet palette. Absolutely bob on. Can't knock it. Anyway, enough talking about that. Yeah, you're going to have something that looks a bit more like that. I quite like this colour scheme. There are parts of it where I would probably change one of the shades. So over the kind of like the more armour-ish type of pieces, personally I'm going to go with Druchii Violet, just to change it completely different, and it gives it more of a purpley look. Or at least that's what my thought process is like. Anyway, it may change from there. Who knows? It'll probably change. Anyway, enough rabbiting on about paint. Obviously, this is still a work in progress. There will be little bits that we can do later on when they give us extra little colours, just to round off the minis and kind of bring it full circle and get them bob on and perfect and everything like that. And more than tabletop ready. And yeah, happy days. Moving on from there, we have a nice read section giving us some more lore to do one of the other war zones in the 41st millennium. This is Warzone Chalnath. I'm going to say it's Chalnath. I may be pronouncing it wrong, but it is what it is. The Chalnath Expanse is a vast war zone in the Ultima Segmentum of the Imperium Nihilus. After the emergence of the Great Rift, it was cut off from the rest of the Imperium. In the darkness, heresy spread, and now the system is in the grip of civil wars, Xenos invasions, cult uprisings, and insidious ideologies. The Chalnath Expanse is a vital area of space that has become the centre of several overlapping conflicts. The Tau ever extending their empire and bringing new worlds under their control have expanded here in pursuit of the greater good.
How can this be for the greater good? The greater good.
This has brought them into conflict with those already in the area. Their chief rivals, the Imperium, maintain a sprawling network of the allied worlds to power their great war machine. The armies of the Astra Militarum, bolstered by the support of other Imperial militaries like the Death Watch and Adeptus Sororitas. So, you get a little bit more backstory of these folks in the Chalnath area, and obviously there are different sections to it as well. So, pretty cool stuff. The lore is always really, really decent. I do like reading the lore and not so much the novels and fiction, in all honesty. But, obviously, a bit more of it, you get a bit more of a kind of symbols of different areas and stuff like that in the Arajian system. That's wrong, isn't it, really? I've definitely said that wrong. And obviously, you get a bit of a map as well. Who doesn't love a map in your war games? Always really, really good stuff. But yeah, pretty cool stuff. I do quite like all of the lore. It's always really good fun. This is a bit that I must admit I do not know about. So this is all new to me, which is always really, really good fun. Obviously, though, you do have 4 major factions within this good old section of space in this war zone. So we have the Imperium, obviously, we've already mentioned. It is the Adeptus Sororitas, Astra Militarum, and the Death Watch, going up against things like the Genestealer cults, because obviously they're there. The Orcs, because the Orcs love a good scrap. And the Tau Empire and the Greater Good.
The greater good.
So, pretty cool stuff. Moving on from there, though, we have more of our campaign as well, though. Chaos Space Marines versus Leagues of Votan. Must admit, quite like the idea of that. Display of might. Utilising that kind of that scenario actually gives us a pretty decent game, in my opinion. I think it looks really, really good fun. Chaos Space Marines can be really kind of interesting. And I must admit, I do have a massive soft spot for the Leagues of Votan, like I do the Adeptus Sororitas. Yeah, Leagues of Votan. Must admit, I would always pick the Leagues of Votan in that one and have a bit of fun with it. Smashy, nicey time and have a bit of good fun with that one. Talking of Leagues of Votan, we're also going to take the Leagues of Votan in their campaign against the Orcs in the forward outpost scenario instead, carrying on with that. And again, I would pick Leagues of Votann over the Orcs personally, because, yeah, I like the little stunties. They're good fun. So, pretty cool stuff. And yeah, really enjoyable. So, yeah, not going to knock it. Can't knock it, in all honesty. I will pick Leagues of Votann in pretty much any scenario going, because I like them. We have another scenario though, scenario number 40, Cult Ambush. Obviously we're going to be utilising our new Neophyte hybrids, going up against Orcs in this one. So we are going to use a unit of 5 Neophyte hybrids and the Mages, and then another unit of 5 Neophyte hybrids in reserve as well, going up against an Orc player who gets to utilise 3 units of 2 Orc boys in their deployment. So you get to have a bit of fun with that. If you're playing along with the guide as well, the Genestealer Cults player plays first. So yeah, have a bit of fun with that. And you get to go from there, and the Orcs just sat in the middle. So are you going to charge out with the Orcs and charge forward, or are you going to, you know, try and hold ground essentially with them? So up to you. But yeah, otherwise you get some deployment abilities as well, obviously, with all of these chappies. And yeah, happy days. But otherwise, it could be a really, really good fun little battle. Have a little bit of fun with it. Enjoy yourself and all that good stuff. Now, moving on from there. So, if you're looking forward to next week, you'll be glad to know that we get the Aberrants. We also get lore about insidious infiltrators and artillery as well, which there are some pretty cool artillery units within good old 40k, mostly for the Astra Militarum, in all honesty. They have some pretty cool tanks and bits and pieces like that, which is really good fun and always enjoyable to see some artillery on the tabletop. Issues 67 and 68, though, parts 1 and 2 of more Neophyte hybrids. So, the good thing with this is we have the options to build slightly differently from what we've already got. So if you want to have more shotguns with one group and have less with another, you can do. If you want to have a few more extra melee weapons, so like the pickaxes, the knives, the good old stun baton, chainswords and all that good stuff, you can do. If you want a different big weapon, you can. That's your opportunity, which is always really, really good fun, especially when you have kits where they do build slightly differently each time. Like, for instance, the good old Leagues of Votann, good old Halfkin Warriors. That was really good fun because you get to build slightly differently and choose different weapons each time and have a little bit of fun with it. So, really good stuff. That is it in general from me for this week. Obviously, if you are going to be ordering anything for yourself for Christmas or for another Warhammer player in your life, or if you just want, I don't know, some RPG stuff or paints or tools or anything like that, feel free to utilise the affiliate links in the description down below. Get yourself some goodies, why not? Save yourself a little bit of money, and it also supports the channel if you do utilise them. Don't feel like you have to, though. Anyway, that is far too much from me. Thank you very, very much for watching, and yeah, I will see you sometime soon. Bye-bye now.